Hi guys, welcome to binary programming. In this video, we'll see the concept of error handling. So the way we used to handle errors in Mule 3 has completely changed in Mule 4. So in this tutorial, we'll see how we can do error handling in Mule 4. So there are two types of errors, system errors and messaging errors. So let's see what is system errors. System errors that occurs out of Mule flow. So it could be like deployment error, syntax error or other such errors. On the other hand, messaging errors that occurs within a flow when there is some processing is happening. So in this video, we are more concerned about messaging errors. So let me create a project and see what are the different scopes are available to handle errors at flow level. So I'll go to File, Create New Mule Project. I'll give name error handling, finish. So as project is created, let's see what are the different scopes we are having with. So as we can see, there are four different components are there: error handling, on error continue, on error propagate and res error. So before going into this, let's see what is default error handling. So all the exceptions that we are not handling or all unhandled exceptions will go to default exception handling. If there would be any failure for this default exception handling, it will log the error, it will stop the flow processing and it will propagate to main flow. So let's see if we want to customize our exception handling or the way we are handling the exception. If you want to customize that, we can use any of this scope. So in this video, we'll see the on error continue and on error propagate exception. So let me create a project or a sample flow. There I'll try to implement these two exception scopes. So let me drag one HTTP listener first. Let's create a global element. I'll keep the default setting as settings. Path I am giving as errors. Let's drag one set payload. Here I am setting a payload as string. The next component we can have validation component is number. So as I am passing here a string and this is number is expecting some number, so it will get failed. Okay, so in this value I'm expecting value from payload and number type is integer. And after this set payload also, let me set up one payload and here I can give a string as after validation. Okay, so with this we are done. So first let's see the default exception handling. If we are not implementing any of this scope, any of this error handling scopes, then what will happen? So as you can see here, I have not implemented any of this exception. So let me save it and deploy it. Okay, so here we can see it got deployed. Now let me hit it from the postman. So here if you'll see, we got the 500 status code with the value whatever is thrown by validation component. So if you'll see the logs, here we can see error is propagated to main flow and error message has got logged. Okay, so now let me try to implement this on error propagate. We'll take one logger component with the label error and invalidation error. Here I'll take one variable. As here if you'll see, we are getting 500 server error, but I want, as it got failed because of invalid or data issue, so I want response code as 400. So sorry, I took remove variable. Let me take the set variable. Here I'm setting the HTTP status as 400, as 400, and I'll set this value to HTTP listener. In the error part response, dot HTTP status, and in case of default it should be 500. If you are not setting this variable, by default it will return 500. So now as we are done with on error propagate, so let me run it. So in this case, till the time it is getting ready deployed, let me tell you what exactly it should happen. So in this case, what will happen, once control will come to this validation component, it will get fail and control will go to on error propagate. So here once control will come here, this logger will get printed and it will go to set variable. Set variable component will set the HTTP status variable to 400. Control will stop the processing for this flow. So after this validation set payload, it will not get executed and control will go back to HTTP listener. There we are looking for this, there it will go to error response part and this variable value will get printed with the exception, the validation error message. Okay, so let me try to hit it. Okay, so now we can see we got the HTTP status code as 400. Now we are overriding the default error handling. So it got 400, and here in the message also the error message, whatever it was there in the error object. Let me tell you one more thing. In case of on error propagate, it returns the error object. Okay, but in case of on error continue, it works completely opposite. So what will happen if there is on error continue? So maybe let me delete this and I'll take on error continue. Okay, so in our on error continue, let me track logger component, logger component and validation errors, and here I'll take set payload because I want to override the payload whatever it will come from here, and I want to return the customized payload in on error continue, in on error continue. Okay, I want to return this payload, so let me run it. So as we are having on error continue, and as I told, in this case it will fail, this on error this validation component will get failed, control will come to on error continue. As we are having on error continue, it will return at the end whatever response will get, it will return 200 status code with the success response whatever we are setting here. So let me try to hit this. So here if you'll see, we got the 200 okay with the payload whatever we are setting in this on error continue. So in simple words, if you want to understand on error and on error continue, so you can think in that way. So whenever there is a failure you can understand as red mark. So if there is a red, from the on error propagate will always get red means failure and green means success. So if there is a red, always in case of on error propagate will always get red. In on error continue case, if there is a red, will get green. Okay, so this way you can understand. Now in case of private flow, as this scope is within a single flow, it is working in that way. Now if we are having a separate flow, some private flow, and inside that flow this set payload I'm having inside this flow, or maybe let me delete this flow reference and error handler flow 1. Okay, so from here I'm making a call to this flow, and here I'm having let me delete this from here and validation component. Sorry, I think I have removed the set payload. Okay, so here let me just do the configuration again. Payload, and this would be integer. Okay, so with this we are done. Now what will happen, I'll just drag and drop this let me try to drag and drop this error handling here. I think it will not come. Let me delete this first, and on error. So let's continue with on error continue only, then we'll see on error propagate how exactly it works with subflow. So here we are having logger, and also I'll set one variable with the value http status. Oh sorry, I think this is on error continue. Anyhow, we'll get the 200 only. So let me set the payload. And validation error subflow okay. So now what will happen, once we'll trigger the job, it will come to flow reference, control will come down to this flow, and this will get failed. So now we'll see on error continue block has scope of this subflow. So if after this is number, if we are having a logger or some other components, so what will happen, it will stop the processing for this flow, and error will and it will go to on error continue. Here it will execute whatever components and business logic we have written inside this. It will execute this, and control will go back to main flow here. And as here we are having on error continue, the main, because on error continue, as I said, red and will get, if there will be red, will get the green. So from this subflow it return the green signal. So main flow will assume that everything is fine with the subflow, and it will execute the remaining processing. So in this case what will happen, so once control will come from the subflow, it will execute the processing of this set payload, and it will return the status code with 200. Now assume that if we were having, in place of on error continue, if we were having on error propagate, so what would happen? Once it will fail, once this validation component will fail, control will come to this on error propagate, and then here, as I said, whenever there will be red in case of on error propagate, will at the end will get the red only, right? So what will happen here, it will return the error object with the error code, and control will the error will propagate it to main flow. And here, as we are having on error propagate, it will stop the processing, it will not continue, and this set payload also it will stop, it will not execute this one, and error message with error code, it will return to http listener, and at the end in the postman will get the same response. So let me try to run this, and we'll see how exactly it works. So here, as this payload will get override by this payload, so at the end we should get after validation subflow with 200. So here if you'll see, we got after validation subflow with 200 status code. Okay, now let me replace this on error continue with on error propagate. With 400. Now let me try to run it. So in this case we'll get so it got run. Let me hit it. Okay, so now if you'll see, this payload is not executed because from here the subflow has returned the error object with error code. So main flow stopped the processing for the remaining and return the error code with the error message. So I hope now you are clear with on error propagate and on error continue. If you have any question, please let me know in the comment section. Thank you.